Hello and welcome. Today is the 11th day of October 2017. Welcome. My name is Derek. Time for a crypto trading video. Everything you do is within your own risk and own reward. And when I do these videos, I do them to try to help people who want help. And that's what I love about the internet and about the free market society and education. For when you are willing to educate yourself and learn, find material, learn from material, that's what is awesome about this world. Try to find different strategies, help out different ideas you are thinking about. So when I made the video earlier where I went through different subjects talking about miscellaneous things without charts, I know those things do help people. And I've had a lot of videos I've watched from people that help, and it's an amazing community. So let's start this video off. We're looking at the Bitcoin daily time frame, and I've been stating for well over a week now at least that I've been wanting to be accumulating Bitcoin and distributing altcoins, and straight up she goes. And what I was thinking at that point, and I looked at the amount of US dollar tether that I have, and I don't have much, only $70 worth actually. Do I buy it in here? No, let's just put a buy order of 4,000. It's going to match up with the 18 average of lows in here, and yeah, well that didn't hit. When you're playing the game, look at the risk reward. The risk in not buying here and waiting for 4,000 is that, well, it's going to cost you more later on. The reward would be, instead of buying at like 42, you're buying at 4,000 at 5% cheaper. That's different ways of looking at trade, but how the market's moving since it's broke this resistance. Good 2 green candles up, 2 sideways days. Man, this thing is looking ready to go, consolidating at this area. Therefore, this is the first time in Bitcoin US dollar history that it has spent this amount of time above this low. In fact, I can find this out for sure by shortening the time frames out. I'm going to find out how many hours it has held whatever this low support is here and in here. Easy to do. So let's figure it out. And to do so, I think the hourly time frame would suit justice. Support level. It happens to work out that this low hit here is 4,700 even. So then, Bitcoin has now held and stayed above 4,700 for what now has been a bit under 2.5 hours. It has went through the entire 10th day and the 11th day above it. It's now starting the 12th, and it broke past this point at 1,800 hours. So 2 full days and 6 hours, 2.25 days thus far. We'll go to the previous day in a little while, but before we do that, let's take a look at the technical analysis within this time frame. Key established resistance. Had a try in here, failed breakout. That wasn't much of a fast move. It sure recovered it pretty darn near fast, enough for you can call this maybe a failed move to the downside. Okay, so resistance on this level hit again. Where do you want to find support? How about twice at the 18 average of lows? It's looking like right now it's wanting to leave this 18 average of highs, which would then get you back in the upper area of this resistance field. This is all-time high levels that we're talking about. So breaking this short-term resistance level, I've only got 4 letters in one word to say how I would rate that sort of scenario. Okay, let's look back at the hourly time frame. back before it reached this. This is 2 1/4 days holding and staying above 47. And when I look back at it, at least from the break on here, when it left from about the 47 area, about a couple dozen or so, or about one continuous day on the 47 mark. But quite frankly, once it left that area of, 47 plus, was to be saying au revoir, goodbye, sayonara kind of deal. Up, at least until now, we're back there, of course. Therefore, my rule of thought in a market which is in a very high secular, longer term situation, which Bitcoin most certainly is, and you've been making all-time high after all-time high, and since the last one, you've had a noteworthy correction. This is definitely noteworthy given the time and even price duration. It doesn't have to be massive, like has to be a lot of percent or even months and months and months. But it has to do enough that the 18 average at least tells me that it did it. This is enough. So therefore, when a situation occurs, when it breaks that level, I expect a decent leg higher. The last time it happened was when it broke the resistance in here. Decent leg higher. So that's why when I use the 4 letters of huge, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing, when it breaks, could rip through the 5,000s, and we'll see what happens through 6. Remember, I wouldn't be surprised if it does. The market's going to do what it's going to do. I'm just doing the best I can to try to forecast it to help my portfolio the best that I can. And if anyone can get any assistance from it, well, you're most certainly welcome. But again, it's your own risk, your own reward. And when we look at this on the weekly time frame, and I've been talking about these hits from the 18 average of lows on this channel. Yeah, in a secular bull market, higher highs, higher lows. I don't have to draw the lines to where they are because they're easy to see. And when you see the bottom price on the bottom blue line, it's doing its thing. It's leaving from these points with amazing gains. It's leaving it. It hasn't had amazing gains. It's only reached previous high. The previous times it's done that was here. It reached its previous high and it had a bit more of a gain. Then it did it here, had a microscopic gain. Then it did it here. Then it had about 1,000 microscopic gains. Maybe a couple thousand microscopic gains. It had a huge gain. And then it did it here, and it had a good gain. And, well, it hasn't broken it yet. But she sure is not far off, which is making me state I wouldn't be surprised if this thing rips through the 5,000s and even the early 6,000s. It wouldn't surprise me. Of course, we'll see how the market moves within its time frame. It's just probability analysis. It's almost like saying, oh, Bitcoin prices are probably going to go lower in the near term. Yeah, that's like saying Toronto Maple Leaf hockey games are going to be low-scoring 2-1 games. And I know a lot of you don't follow hockey, but they play the most opposite. Oh, 8-5 games. That's the games they're playing right now. It's all about understanding the trend and how you can work the trend to your favor. Now let's move into the alt board. Start talking about some altcoins. And my favorite one of the day, CANN, CAN, Abyss coin. And why is it such? Because price action. It's price that pays. Thankfully, I bought some today, or yesterday actually, and I got it at a very good price. We're looking at the daily chart, and we're seeing, and I've talked about these this industry of coins in which has had spectacular gains and then very quickly bringing it back. When you look at the pattern, understand it. Pattern recognition, and as I understand it, we see in here it goes up to this high. Within the day, it's back to the 18 average. And the next day, it's at the lower end of the 18 average. And then on this day, it breaks it again. Next following day, it has a monstrous breakout to the highs. And then an extreme breakout at least back down to here. And in this situation, that's like going from like 16.5 back down to like close to 9. Almost half its value intraday. Then the next day, it rallies from the 9 point up to close to 14. So it gives you like a 50% intraday move. And then by the next day, it's within the 18 average. 2 days after that, it's in the lower end of the 18 average. And of course, you can see the same thing here. Even on the smaller end, we can see it how it works on this as well as within here. So I'm expecting this to happen again. And then to go way up. And then within a day or two, go back way down. And all the other coins within its industry to do the same thing as well. So then, where did I buy? Well, let's shorten it out a little bit. And this is the 60-minute. And I like this short-term setup. I think it looks like it might be ready to scream for at least a small intraday move up to 700, 800-ish or so. So where did I buy, or when did I buy, is really the only answer I can give you on this chart. Somewhere around here, hopefully around this 550 mark. Divide that number by 2. And then divide that number by 2. And then divide that number by about 1.6 or 1.7. I literally bought at 100 Satoshi today. Somebody decided it was a good idea to sell me many thousand of these at 100 Satoshi. How can you pull this off? The answer is smaller exchanges. Now, it's common is, we'll just use an ABCD code, on a much bigger exchange, something that might trade, say, 30, 40 Bitcoin volume per day, maybe at a certain live time, you get the bid-ask spread at say, 1,000 and 1020. So you can buy at 1020, sell at 1,000. And in here, smaller exchange, it would cost you a lot more to buy and you get a lot less to sell. Okay. So therefore, in a spot like this, this is where you can oftentimes sell your tokens or codes or coins for more than what they're worth and buy them for less than what they're worth. But then there can oftentimes come situations where you can get the sweet deals you're very rarely going to get. And for the first time, I've gotten one of well greater than 100% on a gain, in that of about 425%. So therefore, as a trader, I sold half of what I bought on Bittrex via moving them from one site to another. And I kept the other half, well, because this thing could explode. And if it does, I have tokens now. I've wanted to get them and I want to get them cheap, but you know what? Sometimes you go on and get them cheaper than cheap, and thankfully I was able to do such. So therefore, as a trader, I wonder, why would somebody not understand? They sold higher than me. They even sold it down to 44. I don't know how much they sold. I didn't check that actually, but they ended up doing such. Now, the process of sending the tokens from that exchange to, say, Bittrex, it took me about close to an hour. You need 100 confirmations on this. It takes an hour to do it. Hour and a half, maybe. Okay. And then you sell it at this exchange. Obviously, you'd be selling it for 5 times higher. I think it'd be worth doing. And then all the stuff you sold, of course, above the 100 number on top of that, And then you have a lot more Bitcoin you could sell on a much bigger exchange. And then, well, transfer Bitcoin. It's half hour, 40 minutes, 20, depending on where you're transferring it to. It doesn't take long. It does not take that long. But I don't know why people make those mistakes, but they do. So therefore, have those bids ready. They're available on so many different codes, practically all of them, for the most part. And you can take advantage of such. Even just regular trading those types of exchanges. I'll give you another example. I'm talking about a code that only trades a few times a day even. But if you see a situation, and this is only going to be found on a small exchange. Let's just say on the sell, the ask is selling for, say, 120, 125, 160, 200, and maybe 300. 550 is the next number, and you'll see these on some. And then the buy, you got like 57, maybe 50, 42. You can sometimes get some very large differences within them. So if I see a code like this, I'm going to be trying to, I'll play the bidding war, as I call it. Okay, I'll put in at 58. I'll check up on it later. If someone puts in a 59, I might put in a 60. And if I hit this buy, someone sells this to me. Okay, let's put my sell order in. Let's go in for 119. And then you play the game through. So if, say, I bought 100 of these here, and then I sold 100 back, and when I sell, say this person buys it up to even the 125 mark, buys it all the way up to here. And now let's just say this thing, you bought at 58, say the bid order through time went up to 70 and there's now a 61 or something like that. So now you can put a buy order for 71. You bought 100 before. Now you can put an order in for about 170 or so based on what you sold it for. And hope that you were able to get in. If not, you got in, you got out, you got a profit. That's the way I look at it is anyway. And so assume you get in, you got the 71. And say the market is still at 160. You put your 159 sell order in, and there can be some great gains available using a strategy like that. So it's all about understanding your options, understanding your opportunities, controlling your risk and reward. Basically, recognizing the situation and then reacting to the situation. And from my point of view, I like to do so for the highest potential profitability. Okay, let's move on to one final cryptocurrency, code VRC, Vericoin. And it hasn't been doing too well. Although volatility, extreme, check mark, yet it qualifies for that of extreme. Technical analysis. Okay, one of the things I've talked about is when you come back to a key level, and the polar opposite of this is true, by the way, but when you make a key low, I mean, it didn't matter where it came here. It's just, this is where the bottom was. It was where the leg was from this last key low. When you have a substantial rally, both through time and price, there's some time and price here. And well, there's a price, there's a time. And then it comes back to previous low. I think it's a good buying opportunity, both bullishly and bearishly. Therefore, had you put a buy order in here, how you doing? I hope you're selling soon, or you've already, at least to some degree, unless you know something fundamentally that it's going to go higher. And if you do, what is it? But I don't think you do, because I don't know what it would be. However, from 5,000 and we're already at 76. That's a 50% book gain in the ballpark and such, at least based on the mathematics that I know, and, well, mathematics that you should know as well. And one of the things I talk about for both bullishly and bearishly, where would I suspect the resistance would be if it was going to be on a bearish level? The answer is previous key low. And this low, where it's at now, coincides with this key low. So if you're telling me in advance, it doesn't matter what the chart is, that's where I would think it would go to. That's where you would sell at. So in a spot like this, your mathematics is a 50% probable gain. Check mark, it's 1. And I didn't play it, but I'm just saying that's how it would be doing so. Because in a bearish situation, it can go up a little bit higher still too. I mean, it's not like it can only go here and that's all it can do. But usually it just goes towards those areas. It's going to make its way lower, break it, and if it doesn't break it, it will congest within this area for a significant period of time, and then later on the line take it out. And I don't really have to say much if it's going to be bullish, because obviously whenever something's really bullish and you look at it after the fact, well, you'd be like, oh man, people who bought at these lows were sure genius. People who bought here would have been genius, as would people in here. But that's if that's going to be the case. And we'll finish it off by looking at it on a 30-minute time frame. And we're looking at a chart that has an increase in volume on that of trades. When you look at the movements, just the structure of how these candles look compared to what's normal, where there's always these green and red candles. The open and close is pretty much in the area of the same price. It's easy to follow in my book, where these ones, you can tell the distinct differences of the two. But as the market rallies, it's moving in a normal, regular way of looking at it. But you look at the move. You go to 8,000, and then within an hour or so, you make a move down to 6,000, giving back a quarter of its value for just a short-term move. Congest within this area and the rising 18 average, and then boom, 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 boom. Many straight candles up to previous high. Okay. Now what situation? And then question mark. Well, probably a resistance area. And I'm saying that as in, I mean, I'm not the most confident. Generally speaking, when I see a pattern, I'm looking for a pullback now. Again, I'd be looking towards this 18 average, maybe even down to 7,000 to match up with this high. Maybe they can coincide with each other. That's what I'd usually be looking for. But breaking this resistance, well, we've seen how deadly it was looking on the daily chart, like not much of a move, but there's definitely a lot of upside room potential that could be available. Keyword could. All right. Wow. I think a lot of good information in this video. At least I hope so. Well, I think it was. It definitely was. And for salutations, thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great night. And I'll be back on Thursday morning with the 2.5-minute warning. Take care.